The sun filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the ground as I walked along the quiet streets of my neighborhood in Asheville. The vibrant colors of the local art scene painted a picturesque backdrop, yet they felt distant from my reality. I often found myself lost in thought, reflecting on a life that seemed to drift further from what I had envisioned. My marriage, once a source of comfort, had morphed into an echoing silence that filled our home. I would sit at the kitchen table, staring at the untouched coffee in front of me, while he busied himself with his work. Conversations had dwindled to mundane exchanges about grocery lists and household chores. I longed for deeper discussions, for laughter and connection, but those moments had become rare. It was as if we were two ships passing in the night, each caught in our own world. One afternoon, while cleaning out a dusty drawer, I stumbled upon an old photograph of myself from decades ago. My younger self smiled back at me with an innocence that felt foreign now. The carefree spirit captured in that image seemed to mock my current state of mind. I remembered those days filled with dreams and possibilities. Now they felt like wisps of smoke slipping through my fingers. As I sat there holding the photo, nostalgia washed over me like a gentle wave. It was during this moment of reflection that I heard a soft knock at the door. My elderly neighbor stood there, his face lined with years of wisdom and kindness. He often tended to his garden or shared stories from his past on warm afternoons. Today was no different. "Hello there," he greeted me with a warm smile that momentarily lifted the weight on my shoulders. "Hi," I replied, trying to muster some enthusiasm. He began talking about his garden and how the roses were blooming beautifully this season. As he spoke, I found comfort in his words. They were simple yet filled with life's richness. For brief moments, I could forget about my own troubles and immerse myself in his tales. "Do you remember when we had that block party last summer?" he asked suddenly. I nodded slowly, recalling laughter and music filling the air, a stark contrast to my present solitude. "We should do that again," he suggested lightly. I smiled faintly at the thought but felt a pang of longing for connection beyond mere pleasantries. "Yes, it would be nice," I replied before we parted ways. After he left, I returned to my chair by the window and gazed outside at the vibrant street filled with neighbors chatting and children playing. Their laughter echoed against my heartache like distant music, joyful yet unattainable. That evening at dinner, my husband sat across from me as usual, absorbed in his phone while chewing absent-mindedly on his food. His indifference stung more than ever as he scrolled through emails or news updates without glancing up once at me. It was clear he was unaware of how isolated I felt within our shared space. "Did you see Mrs. Thompson's new yard decorations?" I ventured cautiously. He shrugged without looking up and muttered something about how people waste money on frivolous things these days. Frustration bubbled within me as silence enveloped us again like an unwelcome guest lingering too long after a visit. After dinner, he retreated to his study while I washed dishes alone, each clink echoing my loneliness against tile and glass. In bed later that night, sleep eluded me as thoughts swirled around unanswered questions. Was this all there was? Had love faded into mere coexistence? Days turned into weeks as this routine continued, a cycle of isolation punctuated by fleeting moments when memories would wash over me uninvited. One afternoon while walking through a local park buzzing with preparations for an upcoming festival, something caught my eye, a small booth showcasing handmade crafts and art pieces created by local artists. As I wandered among them, admiring colorful paintings and intricate pottery, an unexpected encounter stirred something deep within me, a reminder that beauty still existed outside my walls. Suddenly drawn to one particular piece, a vibrant painting depicting a sunset over the mountains, I felt an urge to connect with its creator rather than just observe passively from afar. "Isn't it beautiful?" A voice broke through my reverie. An older man stood beside me admiring his own work displayed nearby. "Yes," I replied softly before introducing myself awkwardly. There was something familiar about him despite our brief exchange. We talked about art for what felt like hours, sharing thoughts on creativity and inspiration while laughter punctuated our conversation like notes in a song long forgotten between us both. In those moments spent together amidst vibrant colors swirling around us under warm sunlight, something shifted inside me. Hope flickered back to life where only shadows had lingered before. But just as quickly as it ignited within me came doubt. The reality of my situation loomed heavy over every exchanged word between us. Could this connection lead somewhere meaningful? Or would it only deepen my discontent? Later that evening, after returning home feeling lighter than air yet burdened by guilt, I caught sight again of that photograph tucked away in its drawer. The girl smiling back seemed so far removed from who I'd become, now trapped within societal expectations wrapped tightly around me like chains binding down desires hidden deep beneath layers built over years spent conforming rather than living freely without fear or shame, hanging overhead constantly reminding me what was deemed acceptable versus what truly fulfilled one's soul instead. I sighed heavily, knowing tomorrow would bring another day filled with familiar routines devoid of warmth or understanding, but perhaps today marked an awakening within myself, a longing for connection beginning to take root despite everything else weighing heavily upon it still. As darkness settled around our home enveloping everything inside, it felt oddly comforting knowing somewhere out there beyond these walls lay possibilities waiting patiently just beyond reach. The festival was in full swing when I first saw him again. The vibrant colors of the decorations and the laughter of families filled the air, yet there was a weight pressing against my chest. I wandered through the stalls, half-heartedly admiring crafts and local produce, my mind elsewhere. The familiar faces of neighbors and friends passed by, their smiles brightening the day while I felt increasingly invisible. As I turned a corner, I caught sight of him standing near a booth adorned with handmade pottery. He seemed to fit in seamlessly with the surroundings, his presence calm amidst the chaos. Our eyes met for a brief moment, a flicker of recognition that sent a rush through me. The world around us faded as I approached, drawn by an unexplainable pull. "Beautiful day," he remarked, his voice steady and warm. "Perfect for a festival." "Yes," I replied, surprised at how easily the words flowed between us. "It's nice to see everyone out enjoying themselves." We spoke about trivial things, the weather, local artists, but beneath our casual conversation lay an undercurrent of tension. Each shared glance felt charged with unspoken words and emotions. The laughter around us felt distant, as if we were in our own bubble, isolated from the festivities. "I've always found this festival to be a little overwhelming," he admitted after a beat, his gaze drifting toward the crowd. "Too much noise sometimes." "Agreed," I said softly, feeling oddly understood. "It can be hard to connect with so many people around." He nodded thoughtfully, his expression reflective. There was something about his demeanor that made me feel safe yet vulnerable at the same time, a strange contradiction that stirred something deep within me. As we continued to talk, moments stretched into minutes until we found ourselves stepping away from the bustling crowd into a quieter corner of the park. The music faded into the background as we settled onto a bench beneath an old oak tree. The leaves rustled gently overhead, casting playful shadows on our faces. "I've been thinking about what you said last time," he began hesitantly. "About feeling lost." My heart raced at his words, each syllable echoing my own thoughts and fears. "Yes, it's hard to shake off that feeling sometimes." He looked at me intently, as if searching for answers hidden within my expression. "You're not alone in this," he said softly. A silence enveloped us, thick and heavy, filled only by distant laughter and music from the festival grounds. In that moment, everything shifted. It became clear that we were no longer just two neighbors exchanging pleasantries but two souls seeking solace in each other's company. Suddenly overwhelmed by an impulse I couldn't quite comprehend but desperately wanted to surrender to, I leaned closer to him, our breaths mingling in the space between us, and then it happened, we kissed. The world around us vanished completely, it was just him and me locked in that fleeting moment where time stood still. My heart raced wildly as warmth spread through my body, a stark contrast to the cold emptiness I had felt for so long. But just as quickly as it began, it ended. Reality rushed back like an unwelcome tide crashing over me. Panic surged within. What had I done? What would this mean? A part of me craved more while another part screamed for restraint. I shouldn't have, I stammered, pulling away slightly but not entirely breaking contact. Maybe not, he replied quietly, his eyes searching mine for understanding rather than judgment. But you felt it too. I nodded slowly. There was no denying that spark ignited between us, a connection deeper than mere attraction or curiosity, and yet guilt gnawed at my insides like an insatiable beast. We should go back, I suggested tentatively, glancing toward where families strolled hand in hand under strings of colorful lights. Do you want to? He asked softly. I hesitated before shaking my head slowly. I didn't want to return just yet, not when everything inside me felt so alive for once amidst all this chaos swirling around outside. Instead of heading back into the throng of people celebrating life together, something I had longed for but hadn't truly felt, I chose instead to linger in this moment with him just a little longer, even if it meant venturing further down an uncertain path filled with consequences waiting ahead. As we sat there together, lost in conversation punctuated by laughter, I could hardly believe how easily he drew out pieces of myself that had remained dormant for years, buried beneath layers of responsibility and expectation. Eventually, though reality encroached once more, families began dispersing toward their cars while vendors packed up their wares under fading daylight, illuminating our surroundings with golden hues turning darker shades around us. I should get going, he finally said reluctantly as dusk settled over Asheville like a comforting blanket draped across our shoulders despite everything weighing heavily on mine still, the weight of choices looming ahead filled with uncertainty clouding any clarity gained today. I know, I replied quietly but didn't move right away either, caught between wanting him close yet fearing what lay ahead should this connection deepen further than intended. That night brought restless dreams filled with flashes of laughter shared alongside moments spent wrapped up tightly within each other's arms, a stark contrast against those lonely nights spent staring blankly at walls devoid warmth or understanding back home where silence reigned supreme instead. In waking hours, however, dread seeped into every crevice left untouched by fleeting joy experienced earlier today. Questions spiraled endlessly through my mind while guilt clawed relentlessly at my heart, reminding me constantly about boundaries crossed without consideration given beforehand. What did this mean? Where would it lead? And most importantly, what would happen if anyone discovered what had transpired between us? I wrestled with these thoughts throughout the following days leading up toward another weekend filled with promise yet fraught risks lurking beneath surface tensions simmering quietly, just waiting patiently until they could erupt unexpectedly like fireworks lighting up darkened skies above. The days passed slowly, each one stretching into the next like a long, winding road. I found myself caught in a web of thoughts that tangled tighter with every interaction. My husband remained oblivious to my internal struggle, his focus firmly on work and mundane routines. I often wondered if he sensed the distance growing between us or if he simply chose to ignore it. In the quiet moments of my day, I replayed our last encounter over and over. The thrill of being with him was intoxicating, but so was the guilt that gnawed at me relentlessly. What are you doing? I would ask myself, staring at my reflection in the mirror as if it held the answers I sought. The woman looking back seemed foreign, a stranger wrapped in layers of confusion and longing. I found refuge in my usual places. A cozy cafe nestled in the heart of Asheville's arts district became my sanctuary. The rich aroma of coffee mingled with the scent of freshly baked pastries as I sat at a corner table, watching life unfold around me. Artists displayed their crafts outside, and laughter echoed from nearby galleries filled with vibrant colors and creativity. Yet amidst this vibrancy, I felt an emptiness that no amount of caffeine could fill. One afternoon, while sipping a latte and lost in thought, a close friend approached me with a knowing look. "You've been distant lately," she remarked casually but with an edge of concern. Her eyes searched mine for answers that I wasn't ready to provide. "I've just been busy," I replied lightly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Busy or avoiding something?" she pressed gently. The question hung between us like an uninvited guest. I shifted uncomfortably in my seat, aware that my secret was becoming harder to conceal. "Just life," I deflected again, hoping to change the subject. But her gaze remained steady, probing beneath the surface. "If you need someone to talk to." I appreciated her offer but felt trapped by my circumstances. My heart raced as thoughts of him flooded my mind, his laughter, his stories filled with wisdom born from years lived fully. Each memory was both a balm and a wound, they soothed yet reminded me of what I risked losing. Later that week, we met again under the pretense of casual friendship at our usual spot, a park buzzing with preparations for an upcoming festival. The air was thick with excitement as families set up booths and children ran about playing games. Yet here I was, standing on the precipice between two worlds, one filled with comfort and predictability, the other pulsing with uncertainty and passion. As we spoke about mundane topics, music festivals and local artists, I felt an electric charge in the air between us. Our conversations had shifted, they were no longer just friendly banter but carried an undercurrent of something deeper, something dangerous yet exhilarating. Without thinking much about it, I reached out to touch his arm during one particularly animated exchange about art installations at the festival. Our eyes locked for what felt like an eternity before he leaned closer, our lips met in a moment suspended outside time itself. The world around us faded away until it was just him and me lost in this secret we had begun weaving together. Reality crashed down hard afterward as guilt pooled within me like dark ink spreading across clean paper. What had we done? The thrill lingered like perfume on skin long after he had left my side, yet so did fear, the fear of being discovered by those who might unravel this fragile tapestry we were trying to create. Back home that evening felt different. Shadows loomed larger than before in our quiet house filled only with echoes of past conversations long forgotten by both parties involved. My husband engrossed in his television show while I sat quietly beside him feeling utterly disconnected from everything around me. Days turned into weeks marked by stolen moments shared between us whenever chance allowed, a walk through town or quick coffee breaks where laughter came easily but always tinged with apprehension hovering just below surface tension waiting for something to give way. But then came that fateful day when everything changed unexpectedly as we walked hand in hand through another festival gathering. Vibrant colors danced around us while music filled air thick with joy. But even amidst all this lightness lurking shadows whispered warnings back into consciousness urging caution against reckless abandon. "Have you told anyone?" he asked suddenly breaking through my reverie. I shook my head vehemently. "No one can know." "Not even your friend?" The thought sent chills down my spine as images flashed through my mind, her questioning glances lingering far too long whenever we spoke recently. What if she suspected more than mere friendship? "No," I replied firmly though doubt crept into voice betraying uncertainty behind resolve masking fear lurking beneath surface layers built carefully over years spent avoiding confrontation within marriage itself. A choice made long ago now threatening everything anew once more threatening stability crumbling beneath feet without warning leaving only chaos behind where certainty once stood tall proudly declaring independence proudly unfurling wings ready take flight soar high above clouds beyond. Reach grasping freedom after years spent caged within confines created by others' expectations imposed upon self battling against tides pushing back towards familiar shores instead venturing forth bravely into unknown waters ahead uncertain yet beckoning. Enticingly promising adventure awaits just beyond horizon line waiting patiently beckoning forward. As night fell upon Asheville painting sky-deep hues reflecting warmth radiating promise ahead despite fears swirling inside battling against doubts whispering caution urging retreat back home safe harbor away from storm brewing below surface hidden depths left. Unexplored yearning desperately break free chains binding tightly holding captive too long finally breaking loose rushing forward heart racing toward new beginnings stepping boldly into uncharted territory unknown awaiting discovery yet. Fraught risks lingering ever-present reminding always choices made carry weight consequences unseen until faced head-on confronting reality headfirst embracing whatever may come next. The weekend getaway, tucked away in the quiet of the Blue Ridge Mountains, was supposed to be an escape from the noise of my life. Instead, it became a mirror reflecting my choices back at me. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of pine and earth, yet I felt a heaviness in my chest that no amount of fresh air could lift. Each moment spent with him was laced with both exhilaration and dread. We spent the night together in that little cabin. The moonlight streamed through the window, illuminating our shared space with a soft glow. It felt surreal, as if we were suspended in time, far removed from the world outside. Conversations flowed easily between us, punctuated by laughter that felt foreign yet comforting. I listened to his stories, tales of his youth filled with joy and heartache, and found solace in his understanding gaze. But beneath that surface warmth lay an undercurrent of anxiety. Every laugh echoed with unspoken questions. What were we doing? Was this fleeting moment worth the risk? I sensed the weight of my decisions pressing down on me like a heavy blanket, it suffocated yet comforted. The next morning came too soon, bringing with it the harsh light of reality. I watched him as he brewed coffee in the small kitchen nook, his movements steady and familiar. This was not just a man, he was a connection to something I had longed for, a sense of understanding that had eluded me for years in my marriage. Yet there was still a nagging voice reminding me of what I was leaving behind. I stepped outside onto the porch, feeling the cool breeze against my skin. The mountains loomed majestically around us, their presence both grounding and intimidating. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a reminder of responsibilities waiting back home. As I pulled it out to check for messages, a familiar face caught my eye in the distance. My heart sank as I recognized a neighbor from our suburb walking along a nearby trail with her dog. She looked up and waved cheerfully, oblivious to my internal turmoil. I returned her wave but felt frozen in place as she continued her walk, unaware of the secrets hidden just beyond her view. "Are you okay?" he asked softly from behind me, breaking me from my reverie. I turned to face him, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Just thinking." "About what?" There was genuine concern etched into his features. "Life," I replied vaguely, not wanting to divulge more than necessary. He stepped closer, searching my expression for answers I wasn't ready to give him yet. "You don't have to carry this alone." His words hung between us like an unspoken promise, a promise that felt both comforting and terrifying at once. In that moment of vulnerability, I realized how deeply intertwined our lives had become despite their brevity. We spent another hour lingering over coffee before packing up our things to leave the cabin behind. Each step toward the car felt heavier than before, leaving this sanctuary meant returning to reality where nothing had changed except me. As we drove back down winding roads lined with trees bursting into fall colors, silence enveloped us like an old friend, familiar yet uncomfortable. My mind raced through every consequence awaiting me at home, unanswered questions from my husband and guilt weighing heavily on my conscience. When we finally arrived back at our suburb's entrance, panic surged through me as we approached familiar streets lined with houses that all looked alike, each one holding its own secrets behind closed doors. "Do you want to talk later?" he asked hesitantly as we parked outside my house. I nodded slowly but struggled against uncertainty swirling within me. This wasn't just about him or even us anymore, it was about everything else waiting inside those walls, the life I had built but never fully embraced. As I stepped out of his car and walked toward my front door, every footfall echoed louder than before, a reminder that choices made could not be undone or forgotten easily. Inside awaited silence punctuated only by distant sounds filtering through from outside, a lawnmower humming somewhere down the street and children laughing as they played nearby. All reminders of normalcy continuing on without pause despite inner turmoil raging within me. I took a deep breath before stepping inside, each second stretched longer than necessary as anticipation twisted tighter around my heart like ivy creeping along an old wall, unwelcome yet persistent. My husband sat in his usual spot on the couch engrossed in some game on television when I walked into view but barely glanced up at first, lost within another world entirely while mine unraveled around me slowly but surely. "Hey," he finally acknowledged after several moments passed uneasily between us, his tone casual but lacking warmth or curiosity about where I'd been all weekend long. "Hey," came out more softly than intended, words stuck somewhere deep inside struggling against rising tension threatening to spill over if not contained carefully enough. "I thought you'd gone hiking," he said without looking away from screen flickering brightly before him, indifference draped across each syllable like heavy fog settling upon landscape obscuring clarity beneath its weighty embrace instead leaving confusion lingering heavily overhead awaiting resolution never coming forth easily nor quickly enough when needed most, desperately now more than ever before. "I did," I replied cautiously trying hard not give away too much while keeping guard over secrets held tightly within grasp unwilling let slip free even though burden felt growing heavier each passing moment spent together here trapped between two worlds colliding head-on without warning or mercy whatsoever. His brow furrowed slightly as if sensing something lurking beneath surface but chose not pursue further questioning instead turning back toward game once again leaving silence stretching tautly between us surrounding everything unsaid yet understood wholly without need words, spoken aloud revealing truths hidden just beyond reach waiting patiently until ready confront them head-on without reservation holding nothing back any longer. The silence lingered heavily in the room, a tangible weight pressing down on my chest. I could sense the unease radiating from him, yet he chose to turn back to the game, as if ignoring the storm brewing just beneath our surface. I sat there, caught between two worlds, one of mundane routine and another filled with uncharted emotions. The contrast was stark and unsettling. I picked at the frayed edges of my thoughts, wondering how long I could maintain this delicate balance. My husband's indifference had become a familiar backdrop against which my life played out. I often found myself lost in reflections of what could be, haunted by what was missing. The warmth of companionship felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by an ever-present loneliness that seemed to grow more pronounced with each passing day. As the evening wore on, I decided to break the silence. "Do you think we should talk?" My voice came out softer than intended, almost hesitant. He glanced up briefly, his expression unreadable. "About what?" His tone was casual, almost dismissive, as if he hadn't realized how much had changed between us. "Us," I replied, searching his eyes for any hint of awareness. "I feel like we haven't connected in a while." He shrugged slightly and returned his focus to the screen. "You're just tired. It's been a long week." His words hung in the air like an uninvited guest, unwelcome yet unavoidable. Frustration bubbled within me as I watched him retreat behind his walls once more. The chasm between us felt insurmountable, every attempt at conversation seemed to fall flat against his indifference. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself against the swell of emotions threatening to spill over. That night, sleep eluded me as I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling while shadows danced across the walls. Memories of my time with him, the older man, flooded my mind like a tide pulling me under. Each moment shared felt both exhilarating and terrifying. It was a reminder of what I craved but couldn't fully grasp. In those quiet hours before dawn broke over Asheville, doubt crept into my thoughts like an unwelcome intruder. What was I doing? Was this secret relationship worth jeopardizing everything? The weight of guilt pressed down heavily on my heart as I replayed our encounters in vivid detail, how we kissed under the stars at that festival and how our lips met softly yet fervently during stolen moments together. Morning light filtered through the curtains as I prepared for another day filled with uncertainty. My husband had already left for work when I received an anonymous note slipped under the door, a simple piece of paper that sent chills racing down my spine. I know your secret. Panic surged through me as my heart raced uncontrollably. Who could have sent this? My mind swirled with possibilities, fear wrapped around me like a suffocating blanket. Had someone seen us? Were they watching from afar? The thought made me feel exposed and vulnerable in ways I had never imagined possible. I spent the day distracted and uneasy, each sound causing me to jump slightly as paranoia gnawed at my insides. Even mundane tasks felt monumental under the weight of this new revelation hanging over me like a dark cloud ready to unleash its storm. When evening came again, I found myself sitting alone at that cozy cafe where so many thoughts had taken shape amidst rich aromas and warm conversations. But tonight felt different. There was no comfort here anymore, only anxiety clung tightly around me like ivy choking its host tree. My phone buzzed unexpectedly against the table, a message from him that made my heart flutter despite everything. Can we meet? Need to talk. The urgency in his words sent a thrill through me but also deepened my dread about what lay ahead. Did he sense something? Would he confront me about our growing bond? Or worse yet, was he aware of someone else knowing our secret? I arrived at our usual spot, a secluded corner table shrouded by potted plants, my stomach twisting into knots with each step closer. His face lit up when he saw me. It was always comforting to see him after days apart even amid turmoil swirling around us both. Hey, he greeted warmly but quickly turned serious once we settled into our seats. What's going on? I got this note today, I blurted out before fear could silence me again completely. His brow furrowed deeply as he leaned closer across the table, concern etched on his features mirrored mine perfectly. Yet there was something else lurking beneath that intensity, vulnerability mixed with curiosity about how much danger we were truly in now. What did it say? His voice dropped lower as if speaking louder would somehow amplify this threat looming above us both. It said, "It knows," I stammered awkwardly while glancing around nervously before meeting his gaze again head-on without flinching away any longer than necessary despite feeling exposed under scrutiny from unseen eyes watching closely nearby, perhaps even now. A flicker of recognition crossed his face before he sighed heavily, an exhale laced with tension reflecting mutual understanding about risks taken thus far along this precarious path chosen together willingly yet fraught with consequences looming large ahead, waiting patiently until ready to confront them fully without reservation, holding nothing back. This isn't just about us anymore, he said, finally breaking silence once more after moments stretched tautly between us, thickening atmosphere surrounding everything unsaid yet understood wholly without need, words spoken aloud revealing truths hidden just beyond reach, waiting patiently until ready. Confront them head-on without reservation, holding nothing back any longer. But what do we do now? My voice trembled slightly, betraying fear creeping back into focus, threatening choke away clarity needed most right now, especially given circumstances rapidly spiraling out control beyond comprehension, entirely unexpected, leaving little room to outcast. Shadows darkening paths ahead, further complicating choices faced, moving forward toward uncertain futures awaiting eagerly just beyond horizon, waiting patiently until ready confront them fully without hesitation, holding nothing back any longer. I stared out the window, watching the leaves dance in the gentle breeze. The vibrant colors of autumn painted a picture of beauty that felt so distant from my own life. The older man's words echoed in my mind, a reminder that our connection was becoming increasingly complicated. I had sought clarity, yet all I found were questions that spiraled endlessly. His past loomed over us like a shadow, casting doubt on everything we had begun to build. I thought about the stories he shared, the losses and regrets that shaped him. They made him vulnerable, yet they also created walls that I could not easily breach. How could I navigate this labyrinth of emotions when my own heart felt so divided? The plan was simple. We would meet at our usual spot in the park, where laughter and music filled the air during the local festival. It was a place where our shared moments felt alive, untainted by the outside world. But as I prepared to leave, an unexpected sound interrupted my thoughts. The front door creaked open. My husband stepped inside, his presence filling the room with an air of normalcy that felt foreign to me now. He greeted me with a smile, oblivious to the turmoil brewing beneath my surface. "I thought you might want to join me for a walk," he said casually, his tone light. I hesitated, torn between two worlds. "I have some things to take care of," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. He nodded but lingered for a moment longer than necessary. "You've been quiet lately," he observed, concern flickering in his eyes. I forced a smile, feeling trapped in a conversation that held no real depth. "Just thinking," I offered vaguely. "About what?" he pressed gently. "Life," I said simply, hoping it would suffice. He didn't push further but instead suggested we grab dinner together later. As he walked away, I felt a pang of guilt twist inside me, a reminder of the secrets I carried like stones in my pocket. Time slipped away as I wrestled with my thoughts. The clock ticked relentlessly toward our meeting time. Each passing minute heightened my anxiety and anticipation simultaneously. What if he revealed something about his past that changed everything? What if it drove us apart instead of bringing us closer? Finally, I stepped outside into the crisp air and made my way to the park. The festival buzzed with life, families gathered around food stalls while children chased each other through piles of leaves. Yet amidst this vibrancy, I felt isolated, an outsider peering into a world brimming with joy. When I reached our usual bench beneath an oak tree, he was already there, looking contemplative as he gazed at the festivities unfolding before us. His presence brought warmth but also uncertainty. It was both comforting and unsettling. "I'm glad you came," he said softly as our eyes met. "I almost didn't," I admitted honestly. He nodded knowingly as though he understood more than words could convey. "Sometimes it feels easier to stay away than confront what lies beneath." I took a deep breath and decided then and there to be honest about my fears, about us and everything we had become entangled in since our paths crossed again after all these years. "Your past, it worries me," I confessed quietly. He looked down for a moment before responding. "It's not just your fears, it's mine too." His voice trembled slightly as he spoke those words, an admission of vulnerability that resonated deeply within me. "Do you think we can overcome them?" My heart raced at the thought of what lay ahead if we dared to confront those shadows together. "It won't be easy," he replied thoughtfully. "But sometimes facing those fears is what leads us towards something meaningful." In that moment of shared honesty, something shifted between us, a connection strengthened by mutual understanding rather than fear alone. Yet just as hope began to blossom within me, reality intruded once more. From across the park's expanse came an unwelcome sight, my husband strolling leisurely along one of the paths leading toward us. Panic surged through me as dread settled heavily in my chest like lead weights pulling me down into uncertainty's depths. What would happen if they crossed paths? Would either man sense what lay hidden beneath this facade? "Is everything okay?" The older man's brow furrowed with concern as he noticed my sudden change in demeanor. "Not really," I murmured under my breath while trying desperately to mask my panic behind forced composure. The distance between us closed quickly as my husband approached. His eyes flickered between both of us before settling on me questioningly. Curiosity mingling with concern etched across his features like lines drawn on paper revealing hidden truths waiting patiently just beyond reach. "What are you two doing here?" His tone remained casual but held an edge that sent shivers racing down my spine. "We were just talking about some old memories," I replied hastily but felt hollow even saying those words, each syllable feeling like another lie added onto an already heavy burden carried silently within me. The older man glanced at me briefly before turning back toward him. his expression unreadable yet filled with unspoken tension hanging thickly between all three of us now standing together under this sprawling oak tree surrounded by laughter echoing from nearby festivities, unaware chaos brewing just beneath surface. I see. My husband's gaze lingered suspiciously longer than necessary before finally breaking away towards something else happening further down path. A distraction perhaps meant only for himself while leaving lingering questions still unaddressed hanging heavily within air thickening around us like fog slowly closing and tightening its grip suffocating clarity remaining just out reach. As silence enveloped us momentarily broken only by distant laughter echoing through trees surrounding park. I couldn't help but wonder how much longer could maintain this precarious balance teetering dangerously close edges threatening plunge into depths unknown where consequences awaited eagerly just beyond horizon waiting patiently until ready confront them fully, without hesitation holding nothing back any longer. The laughter from the park seemed to mock my turmoil, a reminder of the joy I felt slipping through my fingers. My husband's gaze had shifted, but the tension lingered like a shadow between us, thick and suffocating. I could sense that he was trying to distract himself, perhaps hoping that the silence would dissolve our unspoken issues. Yet, the weight of my choices pressed down on me, heavier than before. I walked slowly beside him, each step echoing my internal conflict. The vibrant colors of autumn leaves contrasted sharply with the grayness that enveloped my heart. How long could I keep this facade intact? The thought of losing both relationships haunted me, making every moment feel like a ticking clock counting down to an inevitable confrontation. Later that evening, as I sat in the cozy cafe where I often sought refuge from reality, I couldn't shake off the feeling of impending change. The rich aroma of coffee filled the air, but it did little to soothe my racing thoughts. My mind drifted back to the older man, the warmth of his smile, the way he listened as if every word held significance. Those moments felt like stolen treasures in a life filled with emptiness. I glanced around at other patrons lost in their conversations and laughter. They seemed so carefree compared to me, burdened by secrets and desires that threatened to unravel everything. Suddenly, I noticed a couple at a nearby table sharing an intimate moment, his hand brushing against hers, their laughter mingling like music. A pang of longing shot through me. How had I strayed so far from that kind of connection? As if drawn by an invisible force, my thoughts turned back to him, the older man who had brought light into my darkened world. We had shared so much more than just fleeting kisses. We had shared pieces of our souls amidst our carefully constructed lives. Yet doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest. What if he was merely filling a void for me? What if he too was lost in his own labyrinth? The next day unfolded with an unexpected twist when I received a call from him, a simple invitation for lunch at our usual spot near the art district. My heart raced at the thought of seeing him again. It felt like stepping onto shaky ground where every step could lead me closer to clarity or disaster. When we met under the sprawling oak tree outside the cafe, his eyes held a vulnerability I hadn't noticed before. He seemed different, more introspective as he spoke about his past and regrets that weighed heavily on him. Sometimes, he said quietly, I wonder if we're just escaping rather than truly living. His words struck a chord within me as they echoed my own fears about our relationship. Was this all just an escape from our realities? The thought gnawed at me even as I attempted to brush it aside. Later that afternoon, while wandering through an art gallery filled with vibrant paintings and sculptures, we found ourselves standing close together in front of a piece depicting two figures intertwined, a representation of longing and connection that felt all too familiar. Our eyes met briefly before he turned away as if embarrassed by the intensity between us. Then came another twist, a chance encounter that shattered my already fragile state of mind. As we walked outside into the bustling street filled with festival-goers enjoying local crafts and food stalls, we stumbled upon someone I never expected to see, my husband. He stood across the street staring at us through the glass window of a shop, an expression on his face that mirrored shock and disbelief mingled with hurt. In that moment, Time froze as everything around us faded into oblivion. All that remained was his gaze piercing through me like arrows aimed straight at my heart. I froze instinctively while my breath caught in my throat. A whirlwind of emotions crashed over me like waves against rocky shores. Guilt for being caught in such an intimate moment with another man. Fear for what this would mean for both relationships. Confusion about what path lay ahead. "Let's go," he murmured softly beside me after what felt like an eternity passed between us, silently acknowledging what had just happened without uttering another word. As we walked away from that place, my heart racing wildly, I couldn't shake off the feeling that everything had changed irrevocably between us, all three now entangled in this web spun from choices made under cover, darkness seeking solace where none existed before. That evening back home was charged with unspoken tension, filling every corner as shadows danced along walls illuminated only by dim light filtering through curtains drawn tightly shut against prying eyes. Outside world beyond them still unaware, chaos unfolding within these four walls once considered sanctuary now transformed into battlegrounds where truths lay buried beneath layers, deception waiting patiently until ready to confront them fully without hesitation, holding nothing back any longer. My husband remained distant throughout dinner. Each clink of silverware echoed louder than words left unsaid, hanging heavy between us, thickening air around table, suffocating clarity remaining just out reach. "Are you okay?" he finally asked after what felt like hours spent navigating silence-fraught tension simmering beneath surface, threatening boil over any moment now, spilling secrets hidden away for far too long. "I'm fine," I replied automatically, even though nothing could be further from truth, coursing through veins, every heartbeat reminding me how fragile everything had become since crossing lines blurred once clear boundaries separating two worlds colliding recklessly together, creating chaos where order once reigned supreme. He nodded, slowly accepting answer, though skepticism danced behind eyes, betraying deeper questions lurking beneath surface, waiting patiently until ready to confront them fully without hesitation, holding nothing back any longer. As night deepened outside, stars twinkled above, casting ethereal glow upon earth below, illuminating paths taken yet still shrouded, mystery surrounding future uncertain, looming ahead, casting shadows long dark corners, mind searching desperately, clarity answers eluded, grasp slipping further away each passing moment, leaving only echoes behind, haunting reminders, choices made under cover, darkness seeking solace where none existed before. In those quiet moments alone, thoughts spiraled wildly, spiraling deeper into depths unknown, leading nowhere but confusion, uncertainty surrounding every decision made thus far, weighing heavily upon shoulders burdened by guilt, remorse, longing for connection, understanding lost somewhere along way, forgotten amidst chaos swirling around, threatening consume entire existence, leaving nothing behind but echoes, memories fading quickly into night. The night air hung heavy with an unsettling tension as I sat in the dim light of my living room, grappling with the swirling chaos inside me. My thoughts flickered like the candle flames, casting shadows on the walls, each flicker a reminder of the choices I had made. The weight of my secret relationship pressed down on me, and guilt wrapped around my heart like a vice. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was teetering on the edge of a precipice, every moment pulling me closer to an inevitable fall. Earlier that day, I had met him in our usual spot, a quaint cafe tucked away from the bustle of Asheville's arts district. The rich aroma of coffee mingled with the sweetness of pastries, but even those familiar comforts couldn't ease my mind. We exchanged glances filled with unspoken words and a sense of urgency that had become all too familiar. "What are we doing?" I had asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He leaned closer, his eyes reflecting a depth of understanding that left me yearning for more. "Searching for something we both lost," he replied softly. At that moment, I believed him. But now, back in my home where silence reigned supreme, doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest. My husband remained oblivious to the turmoil brewing beneath our roof. He was engrossed in his own world, leaving me to navigate this labyrinthine maze alone. The thought brought a fresh wave of frustration and sadness. Then came the revelation that shattered whatever fragile peace remained within me. A friend had reached out earlier to share something she'd heard, rumors about his past that hinted at complications far beyond what I had anticipated. It felt as though the floor had dropped out from beneath me. Everything I thought I knew about him was suddenly cast in doubt. I couldn't let it go without confronting him directly. So there I was again, pacing back and forth in my living room while waiting for him to arrive for what would be our last meeting before everything unraveled completely. When he finally stepped through the door, there was an air of familiarity mixed with tension that hung between us like an unspoken agreement. "We need to talk," I started, trying to keep my voice steady despite the tempest raging inside. "What's wrong?" he asked, concern etched across his features. I hesitated for a moment before revealing what weighed on my heart, the rumors swirling around him and how they made me question everything we had built together in our secret world. As I spoke, I could see his expression shift from confusion to something darker, fear? Regret? "I've never lied to you," he said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. "Then why didn't you tell me?" My frustration bubbled over as emotions spilled out uncontrollably. "I can't keep doing this if there's more you're not sharing." He looked away then, staring into space as if searching for answers hidden just beyond reach. "It's complicated. My past isn't something easy to discuss." The air thickened with unresolved tension as we stood there silently, two souls caught in a web of longing and fear. The weight of unspoken truths loomed large between us until it felt suffocating. Just then, a movement outside caught my eye. A fleeting shadow passing by the window drew my attention away from our conversation momentarily. Glancing outside revealed nothing but darkness cloaked in mystery, yet when I turned back toward him again, something shifted within me. I felt exposed under his gaze. "Do you love your husband?" he asked suddenly, breaking through the silence that enveloped us both. The question hung heavily in the air like smoke after a fire extinguished too soon, a reminder of all that was left unsaid between us and within myself. "I don't know anymore," came my honest reply tinged with vulnerability. Before he could respond further or probe deeper into those emotions threatening to spill over completely from within me yet again, the doorbell rang sharply through the stillness, shattering our fragile moment apart. My heart raced as dread washed over me at who might be standing on our doorstep at this hour, instinctively knowing it wouldn't lead anywhere good no matter who it was or what they wanted. I opened it cautiously only to find my husband standing there looking disheveled yet strangely alert, his eyes scanning mine, searching for answers before even uttering a word himself. "What's going on?" His tone held an edge laced with concern but also suspicion, a dangerous combination that sent shivers down my spine, instantly igniting all kinds of alarms ringing loudly inside my head, warning against chaos about to unfold right before us all. We were just talking," I stammered, trying desperately not to give anything away while simultaneously feeling cornered by reality crashing down around us faster than expected, now leaving no room left for denial whatsoever anymore. His gaze shifted past me into our home, revealing glimpses of what lay hidden behind closed doors, the remnants scattered throughout, reminding him perhaps too vividly how far apart we'd drifted over time without acknowledging it until now. "Talking," he echoed incredulously before stepping further inside, pushing past me almost defiantly, forcing his way into spaces meant only for whispers shared privately between lovers lost somewhere along their journey together once upon another time long ago. And then suddenly, a flash caught his attention, drawing focus towards something reflected back at him from across the room. Our silhouettes dancing together against glass framed by moonlight spilling through windows, illuminating shadows cast upon walls surrounding us both, creating an image neither one could ignore nor escape anymore, regardless where they stood or what choices lay ahead, waiting patiently just beyond reach still. In that moment everything shifted irrevocably. The delicate balance shattered like glass underfoot, leaving fragments scattered everywhere, threatening consequences unforeseen lurking just out of sight, waiting patiently, readying themselves for impact sure enough soon enough. As realization dawned upon him, the truth unveiled itself starkly clear between us all. It became painfully evident nothing would ever remain unchanged again, regardless how hard anyone tried pretending otherwise anymore, going forward leaving hearts racing uncertainly toward unknown futures waiting ahead, filled only with questions lingering unanswered.